Kyle Tucker has a dirty secret. No, literally. It has to do with dirt. Houston Astros right fielder Kyle Tucker loves dirt. He can't get enough of it. He reaches for it routinely, rubs it between his hands before every pitch. Dirt is a cornerstone of Kyle's game, or at least it was. About midway through the 2023 Major League season, Kyle gave up on the dirt habit for good. By doing so, he broke out of a brutal batting slump to become one of the best hitters in baseball. But why would he do such a thing? And how could it possibly make him so much better in the batter's box? Well, to uncover the truth, we must dig deep into a tale of superstitions gone wrong, MLB rule changes, and possibly the least controversial piece of apparel in all of sports. In doing so, we might just prove once and for all that the on-field impact of bizarre baseball rituals isn't always make-believe. Baseball has lots of superstitions. Always wearing the same lucky item of clothing, eating exclusively chicken prior to a game, peeing on your very own hands. But not all superstitions work. The thing about superstitions is that players will do them anyway. All that matters is that the one doing it thinks it works. For many who knew Kyle throughout his baseball career, they remember him always distinctively without batting gloves. Until recently, he was one of the select few players in the majors not to use them. As of 2021, there were only 11. But it wasn't always this way for Kyle. And it didn't exactly start out as a superstition either. Coming up through the Little League ranks in Tampa, Florida, Kyle Tucker always stood out from the other kids, at least when it came to talent. But he also had something in common with his more normal teammates: the use of gloves. Pretty much all baseball players wear them when stepping up to the plate, and Kyle was no different. Even after breaking through as a starter for the baseball team at Henry Plant High School, he continued to wear them. In fact, he wore them so much that they got all ripped up, developed holes in the palm and between the fingers that rendered them unusable. Most other players would have simply bought another pair, but Kyle, whether due to mere laziness or an unwillingness to shell out for what can be an expensive accessory, decided to see what would happen if he went without. Gloves or no gloves, it didn't seem to matter much. Hitting barehanded, Kyle recorded an amazing .494 batting average with 10 home runs his senior year, which earned him the honor of Gatorade Player of the Year for Florida in 2015. Despite committing to play for the Gators at the University of Florida, life had other plans. The Houston Astros selected him with the 5th overall pick in the 2015 MLB draft, and he signed for the big league ball club not long after. Thrust into the Astros minor league system, he began a quick rise through the levels, which would culminate with his promotion to the majors in just 3 short years. Along the way, the various Astros affiliate teams provided him with as many pairs of batting gloves as he needed. Though his initial reason for ditching the gloves was no longer in play, Kyle figured that if it wasn't broke, he probably shouldn't fix it, so he kept with the barehanded approach. During his time in the minors, Kyle put on display the unique mix of power, speed, and defensive ability, which would eventually earn him the adoration of Houston fans. Despite this success, he soon realized the one obvious downside of not wearing batting gloves. They provide a hitter with extra grip. The rough, high-friction artificial material on the surface of the gloves made it much easier to grasp a bat than did the comparatively smooth skin on his hands, and he needed a way to overcome the deficit. That's where the dirt came in. By rubbing dirt between his fingers before squaring up at the plate, Kyle found he could introduce some of the requisite friction, mimicking the effect of batting gloves without having to bring himself to wear them. And dirt, after all, is in no short supply on the baseball diamond. The price of this inventive new tactic? Maybe a few awkward interactions in the handshake line after a game. Kyle made the dirt grabbing into a whole routine. Aside from the practical concern of simply being able to grip the bat, Kyle realized he could combine this action into a more prescribed ritual that would allow him to get into the groove at the plate. In baseball, and especially for hitters, focus and emotional regulation are paramount. If you become distracted or allow a bad outcome to get to you emotionally, it might impact your play. Like a basketball player bouncing the ball several times before taking a free throw, routines allow you to steady yourself and maintain composure. Between every pitch, Kyle would step out from the batter's box, grab some dirt from the ground, and then rub it between his fingers while taking a deep breath. In this manner, Kyle's dirt habit became a sort of mindfulness exercise, and one he seemingly could never omit. With the way he was hitting, beginning the 2018 season for the AAA Fresno Grizzlies in the Pacific Coast League with a 308 average in 80 games, why would he ever give it up? After getting called up to the majors that same year, Kyle ran into the first major adversity of his career. Big league pitching had an added dimension to what he saw in the minors, and still only 21 years old, he just wasn't ready. The Astros demoted him back to AAA, but he didn't give up on his unique hitting approach. After putting together another solid year of experience in the minors in 2019, he was back to the big leagues, this time for good. During the COVID-shortened 2020 season, he showed he belonged, hitting for both average and power while leading the American League in triples. In his first full-length season in 2021, he earned all MLB second-team honors, and punctuated the year with a stellar postseason-leading RBI total while rallying the Astros to appear in the World Series. Always soft-spoken in interviews, Kyle was a quiet guy. The loudest thing about him probably his devotion to barehanded batting, which those who knew him well realized was way more than a fashion statement. In 2022, Kyle made a statement, being named not just to the All-MLB second team again, but also as an All-Star as well as a Gold Glover in right field, which was the only glove he would agree to wear regularly. That's not to say though that he would never wear batting gloves. Throughout his first few seasons, he wore them a few times while playing in frigid conditions, and during his 2022 breakthrough, he experimented with wearing them strategically. In the midst of a 4-for-46 slump in mid-April, he dug a pair out from his locker and slipped them on. Although the unfamiliar texture felt strange to his hands, the choice seemed to work out, as he hit 3 singles against Toronto and regained his form. A few games later, however, he was back to his signature glove-free style. This remained the case during Houston's October playoff run, with Kyle hitting 2 memorable gloveless homers in Game 1 of the World Series and leading the Astros to the championship. It's hard to find statistical evidence for the effect of batting gloves on hitting performance. The main reason is that the sample size of players who choose not to wear them is too small. The best evidence for gloves might just be how widespread they are. If batting barehanded was really better, why would so many players wear gloves? Aside from familiarity, players like Tucker might argue that bare hands allow for a better feel of the bat, since tactile fingers have many nerve endings that are blunted when covered. However, glove users might win an argument in terms of comfort. Glove-free batting can be painful, requiring the development of rough calluses on the hands. In addition, gloves reduce the stings and reverberations that come when making contact with a ball. With solid cases for both sides, it's hard to rule either way. Luckily, the baseball powers that be provided us a perfect natural experiment with a sample size of 1. That one was Kyle. In 2023, Major League Baseball implemented a sweeping set of rule changes intended to improve the pace of play and increase the entertainment value of the sport for fans. Among these was the institution of a pitch clock. Under this rule, pitchers are required to deliver their pitch within 15 seconds of receiving the ball. If they don't, they are penalized with an automatic ball. Batters, furthermore, must be ready to face a pitch before the clock reaches the 8-second mark, which proved problematic for Kyle's time-consuming dirt-rubbing routine. To start off 2023, he kept with it, but now everything felt rushed. Left with only 7 seconds to grab dirt, rub it in his hands, and take a deep breath, Kyle found himself suddenly in an endurance competition. He sometimes admitted to feeling out of breath at the plate. The usually muted outfielder made his displeasure about the changes audible, complaining in the early season that the pitch clock gave pitchers an unfair advantage. Eventually, Kyle couldn't put up with it any longer. In a mid-June series against the Nationals, coming just after a 7-game road trip in which he hit terribly, he started wearing gloves full-time and didn't look back, giving up his cherished dirt ritual in favor of being prepared at the plate. The change led to a drastic improvement. Including the first 30 games after the shift, his batting average was almost 100 points higher gloved than it was gloveless. He hit as many homers with gloves as he had without gloves in just half as many games, and raised his OPS from 773 to 886 by the end of the season. When it was all said and done, Kyle led the American League in RBIs with a career-best 112. So does this prove that batting with gloves is truly better than barehanded? At least under the pitch clock, this seems to be the case. but that's only because of Kyle's time-consuming dirt routine. It's all difficult to untangle. Regardless, one other theory might explain Kyle's improvement after ditching the dirt, that it's all mental. Superstitions, according to baseball psychologists, bring with them an external locus of control. The thinking goes that players who buy into these sorts of rituals tie their performance to the ritual itself, an external factor outside of the mechanics of their swing or timing in the box. Routines therefore become compulsive. If players fail to perform them, they psych themselves out and play worse. That's why so many continue to do seemingly ridiculous things despite no evidence those actions actually matter. Could Kyle's improvement have stemmed from a shift in thinking? To give up such a long-held superstition suggests his belief in it was no longer quite so strong. If he saw the dirt touching as key to his performance, he never would have abandoned it in the first place, no matter how disruptive it in combination with the pitch clock was to his routine. Perhaps Kyle simply evolved in his thinking, realized his performance was tied more to factors within his control than some arbitrary pre-swing routine, thereby making him a better player. This of course is all speculation. Kyle is a great baseball player whether he chooses to wear gloves or not, and no matter how much dirt is on his hands. The most important quality to continued success is probably nothing more than flexibility, the willingness to make an adjustment when things aren't working. And as the Astros star has shown, he's not afraid to change things up. That, believe it or not, is Kyle Tucker's dirty secret.